Three Eagles complete the NFL Combine, and we have Mitch Wolfe for Mondays with Mitch to talk all about their performances. All of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Happy Monday, everyone. Today's episode is brought to you by Stat Hero. Stat Hero is reshaping the way you play fantasy sports. Dozens of house-based games to play daily. No sharks, no funky props, just your skill versus the lineups you choose. Sign up today at stathero.com/lockedon. All right, as I said, to kick off the show, we are joined today by Mitch Wolfe, who spent a lot of time this weekend watching the NFL Combine, and he's here to talk about Alec Lindstrom, Zion Johnson, and Isaiah Graham-Mobley, and some of his other thoughts. Mitch, how's it going?
It's going great. Luckily, my fiance was working overnight, so she didn't have to sit and watch all the Combine with me. But yeah, I had a great time. I said, if the draft is Christmas, this is kind of like your Hanukkah because you get the whole week of events going on, and there's a lot of great stuff to catch and check out. So yeah, it was great few days of Combine workouts.
So absolutely. And it sounds like it was a positive experience for all three BC players who all did really well on their individual events. But the biggest name coming out of it was the biggest name going into it, which was Zion Johnson. He ended his Senior Bowl workouts with some really impressive film and some impressive impressions that he left on scouts. He goes into the Combine and kills it. What were your thoughts on Zion's performance, Mitch?
So with Zion, the biggest thing I can say about him is that he is ready to start in the NFL and contribute in a very positive way immediately. And I say that because if you just looking at him when he's at the Combine, he is just built so differently than almost any other guard there. He is just he doesn't look like he's 300 plus pounds. Like he's like physically it looks like it's all muscle. He's built so well. His legs are huge. He looks great. Like he almost looks like AJ Dillon out there, to be honest. But in terms of his numbers, so he had a 5.18 40-yard dash, which was 25th among the 50 guards there. So not that great, but he's a guard, doesn't really matter. But he was top 10 in all of the other drills. He had a 4.46 short shuttle, which was third among 41 offensive linemen, a 7.38 three-cone drill, which was fourth out of 36, a 32-inch vertical jump, which was fourth out of 45, a 112-inch or 9 foot and 4 inches, which was tied for sixth out of 50th, and a 32 reps on the bench, which led all offensive linemen at the Combine. And the numbers that I like to use, it's called relative athletic score. It's done by Kent Lee Platt, and it basically takes all those numbers and spits out a score out of 10 based on the player's size. And Zion got a 9.59, which was it's 53rd out of 175 guards from 1987 to 2022. So he's, almost one of the best 50 guards in terms of his athletic score in the last 40 plus years of draft coverage. So he had a pretty insane week.
Yeah, it seemed like he was the talk of a lot of different draft scouts as they were mentioning, it's either him or that offensive lineman Green from Texas A&M that's going to be the top guard going. Now, obviously, the talk now goes to, he had his conversations, I thought, too, which we can talk about, too, about his interviews, about teams he's talked to. And some of the teams that we brought up were Miami Dolphins, which makes a lot of sense because their offensive line coach, everyone here knows, is Matt Applebaum, who was with BC last year. He said he doesn't even need to interview with them. He's talked with them so much. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mitch, I heard him mention them a few times as well. Yeah,
he's talked with them a lot. And I think Mike Tomlin is very partial to players from Maryland in the DMV area because that's where Tomlin is from. So I think that's partially why. At BC's, like I said, they're kind of as you've talked about, they're developing that connection with Boston College as of late with the Brian Flores hired, Tomlin transferring there. But I mean, at this rate, it's so to compare Zion to Kenyon Green. If you watch Kenyon Green's workout, just looking at their bodies, they're completely different players. And Kenyon Green is like 6'4", 325 or something, but his body is just. And I this is the pot calling the kettle black, but his body is just sloppy. Like his legs are not very well defined. He's got a belly, which, linemen probably should have them, but it looks so different. And he did not look good in the drills. He didn't really know what he was doing in the drills. He was falling down. He didn't look anywhere near as athletic as Zion. And, Daniel Jeremiah took a lot of time to praise Johnson's technique and pointing out these little details about how, Zion angles his knee and puts his foot in a different place and why that helps him. And those conversations were never coming up with Green. And with Green, I get it. Like, he has the physical tools where he could, if the proper development takes place, he could be like a consistent all-pro guard if everything goes right, and like maybe better than Zion, but he's not there yet. Zion is ready right now to be a 10 to 12 year starter at guard and be a perennial Pro Bowler at the position. So it's basically just a matter of like, do you want the guy who's the sure thing, or do you want the guy who maybe could be a little better? But I mean, Zion I think he's interviewed with almost every team. Guards, like I've said, don't get picked. They're not super valued in the NFL draft, but with Johnson, he's displayed his versatility. He's extremely smart. I think teams have really liked him. So I'm not sure he gets out of the top 20, but a lot of playoff teams need some help on the offensive line. So I think he's a lock to go in the first round right now.
I was going to say, if you were a betting man, are you saying top half of the first round at this point?
I think I'd probably put the over under at like 22.5, something like that. I've actually made a 23.5 because I think that's between the Patriots and the Cardinals. And I think if he gets I think the Cardinals would be very interesting. They've drafted BC players before. They need offensive line help. Zion isn't that tall, so that'd be good if Kyler Murray is still their quarterback. But yeah, that would be a really good fit for him, I think.
All right. And now let's move on to our second player, Alec Lindstrom. Mitch, what were your takeaways from Lindstrom's performance?
So Lindstrom had a pretty good week as well. It was much more under the radar just because it is a weaker center class, but Tyler Linderbaum, who is the presumed number one center and is one of the best prospects in the class, wasn't working out. So this was kind of Lindstrom's chance to shine. And he had another really good week. He had an RAS, the relative athletic score of 8.22, which is very good. It is 90th out of 501 centers from 1987 to 2022. So again, a very good percentile. He ran well. He had a 5.1840, same as Zion. He had a 4.66 short shuttle, a 7.5 three cone, 29 inches in the vertical jump, 111 inches or 9 feet and 3 inches in the broad jump, 25 bench reps, which was the same as his brother Chris. And like I said, the 40 doesn't necessarily matter that much, but with these, the jumps matter for offensive linemen because it shows you how strong their legs are and how quickly they can get out of their stance. So that's why those are important. And with the shuttles, with the agility drills, the short shuttle and the three cone, that just shows you how well those players move in short amounts of space, which that matters more than running 40 yards downfield. So that's why those numbers are important. I thought Lindstrom looked good. He's still kind of working on his body. I think his lower half needs some development, but I know he talked to a lot of teams as well. I think teams are always very willing to invest in players that have NFL bloodlines. Their dad played in the NFL. Chris is obviously a very good starter for the Falcons right now. It's a weak center class, as I've said. And I think that Lindstrom looked good in the positional drills as well. So I think that he's still got a pretty strong hold on the second best center in this class.
So in a draft like this, you're thinking that's like third round, fourth round?
I think late third round because, Alec he's 6'3", but he's only 296 pounds. So and this is kind of the same story as Tyler Linderbaum, who is also relatively small. He'll need to go to a team that runs a lot of outside zone, like a rushing scheme, because that allows him to get on the move and he doesn't have to anchor his ground as much. And he also will probably need to go to a division that doesn't play a lot of teams that run a 3-4 defense and have really big nose tackles, because he'll have some struggles there. But he's a really smart player, and teams value that at the center position. I'm not sure Lindstrom is gonna drafted to be a starter immediately, but he could be a long-term backup center for at least a decade. And I think at early day 3, so maybe in the fourth round is probably the best range to predict him in.
All right. And in a moment, Mitch is going to talk a little bit about Isaiah Graham-Mobley and just his overall thoughts of some of the standout performances at the Combine. But before we get to that, March Madness is only a week away. That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual, or are you going for the best? We've done our homework here on Locked On, and we're running brackets with RunYourPool.com. Along with standard brackets, RunYourPool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X, which are both really fun. They have options to edit scoring, and they offer more intel to make your picks. All stuff you're not going to find at ESPN or CBS. If you got a business, Run Your Pool can help take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even gain customers. Plus, they offer full white glove customer support, custom branding, in one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there ourselves. There's no truer test than that. If you want to play against us for a shot at a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. And while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. This is Locked On Boston College. We're now talking about BetOnline. BetOnline, with football over, basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to everything else in the sports world. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. Head on over to BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Locked On Boston College, we are back. We had talked with Mitch Wolfe in the first segment about Alec Lindstrom and Zion Johnson, getting a little bit of talk about that offensive line group and where those two gentlemen are going to possibly land in the draft and how their performances help them. Now, another name that popped up was Isaiah Graham-Mobley. So BC had 3 guys in the combine workouts, and Graham-Mobley was the final one on a separate day. I think he worked out on Saturday. Mitch, can you talk a little bit about Isaiah Graham-Mobley, IGM's performance?
So Isaiah did pretty well. So he came in at 6'1", 230, which is a solid size for a linebacker. And his testing numbers were all quite good. So he ran a 4.63 40. He jumped 10 feet and 4 inches in the broad and 34.5 inches in the vertical. And those are all solid numbers. But the problem is that because he's not that big, even though linebackers in today's NFL are trending smaller, the numbers aren't as impressive. So he got an 8.2 in his relative athletic score, but some of the guys in this position just had absolutely insane days that he really just flew under the radar. And it's good to see that he still has good athleticism despite having a lot of injuries. You know, that's generally the concern with players who have a long injury history like IGM. You know, you wonder have these tears, have they sapped their athleticism? And that's not the case, it seems. But, you know, even him getting invited to the combine is a good sign, because players get invited to the combine because the NFL teams tell the scouting services that run the combine that they are interested in these players. So it's good that he has that interest. However, I'm not sure he did enough to really say like, hey, I'm a guy that needs to be drafted. You know, we kind of hoped him coming into this year would be a nice middle ground between Isaiah McDuffie and Max Richardson, who were the linebackers last year. And this is partially because of injury. And again, that's part of the problem but he just never really had those big impact plays when the defense needed them. So, you know, I don't think he gets drafted, honestly. He'll probably get signed as a UDFA, and, you know, maybe he can have a really good preseason, kind of like Max Richardson did for the Raiders. And maybe he can kind of just hang around the practice squad for a little bit and get better as a player. Cause he's an older player, but he's young in terms of the reps, and granted it's because of injury, but, you know, if you have a linebacker who hasn't taken as many hits, you know, he's kind of light on the tread. So maybe some teams will like that, and that'll earn him a spot in the practice squad.
Yeah, it sounds like he's missing some valuable film from the last year, or like. Yeah,
and it's just that his skill set is not that unique. Like he's a very not average, but a very just normal linebacker, and, you know, so there isn't something that sticks out with him that makes teams like, oh, like we need to draft this guy. And that's, you know, at the end of round 7, you know, teams want to get their hands on guys that have unique skill sets and can do special things, you know, and then they're like, oh, like the point is there are like a bunch of Isaiah Graham-Mobleys in this class. So his skill set is not going to be that valuable because it's relatively common among the class.
So speaking of participants with unique skill sets, this is going to be my segue into this.
That was nice. I like that.
Well, I watched pieces of this, and a lot of it I saw online as people were retweeting it. And around, 4 or 5 yesterday, it absolutely blew up with Jordan Davis, the 344-pound defensive tackle from Georgia, who ran faster than Jameis Winston and was Baker Mayfield.
Patrick Mahomes. Yep.
Yeah, and
he's go ahead.
Talk about his performance, because this is a BC podcast, but when you see an absolute athletic freak like this, it's worth talking about.
Yeah, and I'll try to kind of put it in BC terms. So Jordan Davis is 6'6", 341 pounds, and he ran a 4.78 40. And I just want BC fans to imagine BJ Raji running the same speed, like running that same speed. It's just impossible to comprehend, but somehow he did it. And the crazy thing with Davis is that, he is that big, but his other numbers, he didn't do the agility drills as well because a lot of players opted out of it because of the combine schedule, but his jumping numbers were incredible too. I think he jumped 10 feet and 3 inches in the broad jump, which was the biggest for any player over 300 pounds in the history of the combine. He had a perfect 10 athletic score, and according to the guy who runs a Kent Lee Platt, this was the second highest relative athletic score ever, behind Calvin Johnson, because he jumped 10.3 in the broad and 32 inches in the vertical, which was just insane. And it's funny because, he had this great day and he looked good in the drills as well, but everybody was running really fast times in the 40 and doing well in the drills. Even on the defensive line, his teammate Devonta Wyatt had a crazy day. Another Georgia guy. I mean, all the Georgia guys were incredible. Like, it makes sense why they won a national championship, but even the guys like Travis Jones from UConn, who was 6'4", 320, ran a 4.90. And running that time at that size would be insane in any year. But this year it kind of just flies under the radar because Jordan Davis is not of this earth. He's a national security concern at this point because of how much of an insane athlete he is. But all the players, it seemed like ran super well at the combine this year, despite its wonky schedule going late into the night and players opting out of the agility drills. But the 40s were absolutely off the chain this year, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about all the Georgia players, that there was Trayvon Walker also had a big combine, and the video that was going viral was of Shane Beamer talking about him after they lost to. Did you see the video?
I did. I saw it, but I didn't watch it. So what did it say? I want to hear what he said.
It was great. So they retweeted it to be like, this gives you some perspective on what Jordan Davis is. And it was after South Carolina lost to Georgia. The reporter asked, what special things did Georgia do to make life difficult on defense? And he looked absolutely flabbergasted and goes, they have literally 100 guys with 5 stars. They have a guy that's 340 pounds that can run faster than everyone else in this call right now. They have guys all over the place that are athletic freaks. And he just looked complete, he goes, they didn't do anything. They're just awesome.
Yeah, they're just it's the old Jimmys and Joes versus X's and O's thing. And that's why Alabama can hang with them, because they have similar talent. But at the end of the day, guys like Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, at 6'5", 275. And I said this even when I watched him, he looks like he's about 240 pounds, but his frame is absolutely incredible. So he had a big week. I know that Dan Brugler, the Athletic, has him really high, and he could end up being maybe even a top 10 pick in an edge class that's really good.
I always like to ask this too, because I like to flip the coin. Were there any guys that really tanked during the combine?
So I'll bring one guy up that I kind of felt bad for, and his name is Treylon Burks, the wide receiver from Arkansas. And it's not that he did bad, but he came in at 6'2", 225 with 9 and 7/8 inch hands. And he had decent times. He ran a 4.5, 540. I'm trying to find his jumps. Here we go. 33 inch vertical and 122 inch broad. And all those numbers are good. The problem is that in the days before the combine, there are all these reports flying around. Treylon Burks has 11 inch hands. He runs he might run a 4.3 40. He might jump 42 inches. It's like the scene in Braveheart where William Wallace is saying to all his troops, there's all these stories about me that are fake. I won't say them because it's an explicit line from the movie. But, it's just not really fair to Burks because, he doesn't jump the numbers and everybody's saying, he failed the combine. It's well, no, he still was a crazy athlete and he's still a really good football player. But just the unfair expectations that got set in the days prior, they might hurt him in the media. I don't think he'll really hurt him in the long run to the NFL teams, because he's still a really good player and might be the first wide receiver off the board this April.
All right. Well, Mitch, this was great. Thanks for coming in and talking the combine, because I watch a lot of this stuff and sometimes it just all overwhelms me. And it's great to have someone who can really get to the meat and potatoes of all this stuff. So Mitch, where can people find you on social media?
That's me, meat and potatoes guy. I'm at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE. You can follow me there for, I wasn't tweeting out all the time for everybody, but I've got, just a few takes here and there about guys in the combine. And, as we said, draft season's really heating up. Now the combine's over. It's going to be pro day season. Got to get back into watching some film, getting some guys done in the late draft process. So make sure you're following me there for, I'll be tweeting out all my draft stuff at that Twitter account.
All right, great. In a moment, I'm going to go over all the weekend's games, including baseball winning 2 of 3, basketball falling, and BC hockey has a great weekend for the first time this season. Man, do I love March Madness, and I love those brackets, but I can't remember the last time I actually went deep or even won any money. I'm hedging my bets this year with Stat Heroes NCAA Pick'em contests. Stat Heroes NCAA single game Pick'ems pits the star players against each other in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage. Start focusing on the players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often. Why? Because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you're going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take them on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with a set of players you can choose. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. Simplest, sleek gameplay will have you playing in minutes, and that's what the Daily Fantasy Week was meant to be. Sign up for free today, right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code Locked On for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code Locked On for a 100% match. Stathero.com/lockedon, promo code Locked On. Terms and conditions apply. Now, this is the time of year that I've basically given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolutions to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs yet? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of the best Built Bar's tasting products. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors, including churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie. They're all so good. They're going to be your new favorite. They're all 100% covered in real chocolate. Yes, I said that. 100% real chocolate, and have the flavor profile that you just can't beat with a candy bar. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. With flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and the new this month, the white chocolate cookies and cream, they are all delicious, and with new flavors coming out all the time, you're going to think you're going to need to try out some of those new ones. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you're going to get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black. It was so great to have Mitch on here. And I want to say it's also great to have fans like you who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen. Whether you listen on the apps for podcasts or on YouTube, you have made such a big difference in the growth of this podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you. And for you who have just joined us, thank you as well. Now, this weekend, Boston College basketball wrapped up their regular season with a game at Georgia Tech. This was the second game. They lost one earlier this year to the Yellow Jackets. This one didn't go all that much better. At least Boston College got to overtime in this game as they lost by 4 points, 72-68 in overtime. They were down by as much as 15 points at one point in this game, but they rallied and rallied and rallied. But they had a couple points where they just could not get the winning bucket, especially at the end of the game. Jaden Zachary turned the ball over when there was under 8 seconds left. They had the chance to put in the winner, and they just couldn't get it done. They go to overtime. Georgia Tech starts taking over the game again. You know, they build up a little bit of lead. BC keeps hitting them back though. That was the credit to BC. Like almost every game this year, credit to Boston College. They never wilt. They had times where they got overmatched by teams that were better than them, but when they were playing teams that were right on their level, like Georgia Tech, they were able to almost always battle back, and that's exactly what they did in this game. And for BC, they in overtime they forced Georgia Tech to the line. Georgia Tech started missing free throws, and BC had the chance to tie it again. They were down by as much as 4 or 5 points in overtime. Mekhi Ashton Langford had a chance to tie it, and he clanged out a three-pointer. It was really close there. So BC finishes the year with 6 ACC wins. They're the 13th ranked team in the conference, and they open ACC play on Tuesday against Pitt. This is an interesting matchup because Boston College and Pitt have traded wins. Pitt is definitely on the upswing. I know they're only the 12th seed, but they've been playing much better of late. And, it's going to be an interesting matchup. This is kind of the rubber game between the two. BC lost that first game when John Hugley scored 32 points, but then in the second game, BC really kind of clamped down on him, only held him to 9 points, and were able to win. I kind of like BC's chances in this game. I know Hugley is a good scorer, but BC has done a nice job with their bigs, with James Carnick and Quinton Post. I think if they can figure out how to keep them on Hugley like they did in that second game, they can kind of minimize what Pitt is able to do and get that win. That would be a nice win. To get in the second round of the ACC tournament would be really big for BC. And if they win that game, they have Wake Forest, who ran them out of the court last time they played them. So not too much positivity going into that second game, but hey, anything can happen. So good luck to them. Now, speaking of tournaments, BC women's basketball, they lost their opener, and I think I talked a little bit about that. We're going to have to wait until next week to find out whether they make the tournament or not. That loss was huge. They're on the last I had seen, ESPN had them on the outside of the bubble. So tough loss to lose like that. I mean, you needed that win to get into the tournament. Now they're on the outside. NC State ended up winning the women's ACC tournament there. Baseball had a good weekend, finally. They won 2 out of 3 against North Florida. Joey Fatrano had a big game in both games 1 and 2, and then the pitching staff fell apart in game 3. So you'd love to see a sweep, but didn't happen. But that's a nice way to win a series because BC just needed wins. And speaking of needing wins, let's talk a little bit to end this show off about BC men's hockey, who had a huge weekend. They played UMass, the number 9 team in the country, defending national champions, and BC swept them. That was stunning. I mean, BC is now on a 3-game winning streak against good teams. I believe they beat Northeastern, UMass, and Northeastern just won Hockey East. So BC is playing as good as they have all season long. I mean, you beat UMass, a very, very good team. That says a lot. You beat them on the road. You beat them at home. BC's in good shape, and if they continue to play the way that they're playing right now, look out for them in the playoffs. Eric Dopp had a great weekend. He was he's really hitting his stride at right at the right time. Now if BC is gonna go to the Frozen Four, they got to win the Hockey East. They can't lose in the championship or lose in the second to last round. It's all or nothing at this point. So they're gonna open against UNH. I believe it's a 2 out of 3. I apologize. It's not a 2 out of 3. It's a winner-take-all round. They play on Wednesday this week, and it's BC versus UNH at Conti Forum. That was also a big part of this win, was that BC secured home ice advantage, which I've seen not a lot of fans at the games, but that's okay. So if they win that game, I believe they get to play Northeastern after that. So some big matchups coming up here for BC, and anything could happen. You always trust in Jerry York, but congratulations to them. They got things going just at the right time. Well, thank you all for listening. On tomorrow's show, we're going to get into a preview of the ACC tournament. We will get into all things BC football, and there's some stuff that we're going to want to talk about in terms of spring football that you're going to not want to miss, and everything in between. Remember, if you want to be included in our weekly mailbag, DM me at AJBlack_BC or email me at bostoncollegesi@gmail.com. I love to feature you as we do a mailbag every Friday from now on out. So check me out there. Make sure if you want to ask a question about buy or sell, or what's your thoughts on anything, I am happy to answer any type of question that you have. As long as it's appropriate, right? Well, thank you all for listening. Check us out at Locked On BC on YouTube as well, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.